everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the latest installment in the X-Men franchise, and probably the last, Dark Phoenix. So Dark Phoenix, this is the final film that's going to be in the X-Men timeline done by Fox before they joined the MCU. If you don't know this already, Fox was acquired by Disney, so it's already a plan, and they already know that the X-Men and the Fantastic Four will eventually be joining the Avengers and the rest of those characters in the MCU. And so this film was the finale of all of the X-Men films that have come out since, I think, 2000 or the early 2000s in general. And I haven't really done any reviews for them on this channel just yet, but obviously if you've been following this channel for a while, you know I love comic book movies. I love these characters. I love these worlds, Marvel, DC. This stuff was my life growing up, and I just genuinely have a passion and a love for these characters, for this world. And X-Men has always been one of my absolute favorite film franchises, and outside of film franchises, it's just one of my favorite comic books to read growing up. I love the animated series, the original one, X-Men Evolution, and so many others. It's just these characters, the X-Men story and the various stories that come with these characters has always been one of my favorite stories of all time. And so here we go with the second crack at the Dark Phoenix story. We had that done in The Last Stand before, the third of the original X-Men trilogy. And you know what? I like that movie. I am excited to do a review of all of these over time. And I think just to set you guys up, I should just say I love majority of these X-Men movies, or at least enjoy the majority of them. There are some that are lackluster, some that are better than others, some that definitely I don't understand what decisions were happening in the creative process. But as far as this movie goes, this is just another X-Men movie. That's really the most I could say. This isn't a terrible movie. I think that the critics are definitely dogging on this film a lot more than it's deserved. I think that this movie is definitely getting a worse rap than it really deserves. However, this film is lackluster. It kind of left me feeling the same way that Apocalypse left me feeling, which was that it's just fine. There's some really cool action, some really good performances, and some really good CGI, some great special effects. The movie looks good, but the story and the villain and the stakes, the threat, the narrative as an overall really just wasn't there for me. There wasn't really much for me to latch onto. This film is pretty decently, length. It's not a very short film, but I felt like it was pretty short at times. There was times where it felt very long and like it was dragging. And nothing about this film, I feel, is the actor's fault whatsoever. I think all of the actors in this film do an incredible job of portraying these characters. And if you've seen them in the other films, in these prequel films that we're currently in, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, they all do a really, really good job of reprising their roles and expanding on those characters. I just think that the script did not do them any justice and really didn't do any service or justice to this story. I think anybody who's a fan of Marvel Comics and the X-Men storylines in general knows that the Dark Phoenix and just the Phoenix storyline overall, the Phoenix Saga, is one of the most epic and beautiful and most emotional stories in the X-Men canon. And it's one of those stories I think we can all recognize cannot be done in one film. It's just not possible. And though The Last Stand didn't really do full justice to that story either, I think that the way that they were able to set up Jean in the first original 3 X-Men movies leading up to that version of Dark Phoenix was at least far more emotional, and it made sense within the continuity of those 3 films. The X-Men universe at this point has just been so inconsistent with continuity errors and characters that show up in different films that are the same character but played by different actors in different timelines. It's just very clear that they don't have the same appreciation and love for keeping a cohesive continuity. Though there may be some changes, you may alter some things get retconned sometimes, characters come back to life. Sure, I can buy into all of that, especially when it comes to comic books, and it's such a big part of what comic books are all about. How many times have we all read a comic book where a character dies and they come back to life? It's just part of it, But as far as this X-Men franchise, it just feels like it's just been jumbled, especially in the last few films. Some have been really strong and some are really great, like Logan or Days of Future Past or the Deadpool movies, or even First Class. But then you have a few like X-Men Origins Wolverine or Apocalypse or this one that, for me, I don't hate any of those films, but they're definitely lackluster and they definitely lack real emotional stakes and something to really grip onto. Now, I don't think this film is as bad as X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I would say that I think I liked Apocalypse more than that. And when I say that, Apocalypse is my least favorite of the X-Men films, the ones that are actually titled X-Men, of the main series itself that has to do with the whole crew, not really including the Wolverine films or Deadpool. And I just gotta say, for me, this film just felt like it was missing something. But like I said, I think as a fan of X-Men and a fan of comic book movies, this is a fun movie. It's fine. There's cool stuff to look at. The action and the cinematography and the special effects and all of that is really well done. And I think the performances in this movie are really well done. I really have to give it up to Sophie Turner for really stepping up and doing her best to play Jean Grey in this whole Dark Phoenix form in this film. You know, again, the script doesn't really do her any justice or really any service to this story. It's really tough to, you know, critique her too hard, because I think she herself did a good job. I think she looks the part and she portrays the part well. But again, this is a story that needs time to build up. And she just was introduced in Apocalypse as Jean Grey for the first time. And compared to other characters, she didn't have that much screen time. So it really didn't feel like this was earned or deserved, or this story had a lot of emotional weight or stakes. Same with the actor who plays Cyclops in this film. He was just introduced as Cyclops in Apocalypse, and again, it just doesn't feel like their relationship was fully earned. And I like that actor, but I can't really remember his name right now. I really enjoyed him in Ready Player One. I think he did an amazing job playing Scott in this film. The issue is, you just don't have the depth in the characters and the story. And if anything, I think that the characters that were able to bring the most emotion, the actors that were able to bring the most emotion, were Magneto, Professor Xavier, Beast, and Mystique in this film, because they're the only characters who have had build-up from the last 3 or 4 films that really feel like, okay, I can emotionally resonate with certain moments. There are some really strong Magneto and Professor Xavier moments in this film, but I think a lot of the other characters are just there to kind of be that character. They do some cool power moments. They may have a few moments with some cool reaction shots. You know, the performances are good in this movie. Nobody gives a bad performance. But the overall story, the sense of stakes, the sense of emotion just wasn't there for me. You know, the villain is so forgettable and just so like almost completely unnecessary for the story. There really shouldn't have even been a villain in this story. This should have been a story that really was about the turmoil between the X-Men and Jean and the whole Dark Phoenix story. So no spoilers, obviously. I really don't have too much to say about this, guys. I can't wait to talk more about the X-Men franchise. I'm really excited to get into the X-Men movies and really just be able to review those films, because there's so many of them that I really, really love, and some storylines that I really love. And, you know, for me, they've made some missteps and they've really just jumbled the continuity, but I've stuck around as a fan of these characters from the comic books, from growing up and watching countless hours of animated stuff with these characters in it. I mean, the X-Men have always been such a humongous part of my life. So with that said, I enjoyed this film for what it was. I think that if you are an X-Men fan like me, or somebody who grew up and just enjoys comic book movies, it's going to be hard to completely hate this movie or completely dislike it, unless you're the kind of person who sees something that's lackluster compared to the other films and instantly thinks that means it's bad. Again, I think that the critics are ripping into this movie more than it deserves. Really good performances, good special effects, some really solid action, a really, really great action sequence near the end of the film with a train. But I just think that there is not much to really grip onto emotionally. I think if you've never seen an X-Men movie before, first of all, you know, this movie, story-wise, really isn't the movie for you to just cop in on. But I think overall, this won't really do much for casual comic book moviegoers, and this really won't do much for casual X-Men fans. I think if you're looking for a really great and exciting story, you're really just not going to get it here. But I think there's going to be a lot of people who enjoy it, and I did enjoy a lot about it. So, you know, I don't want to say that this movie is bad, but it's not great. It's just somewhere in the middle for me. But at the same time, I feel like it's just, compared to where this franchise has gone, it is a little bit lackluster, and I can't help but feel like they really could have done a lot more. And like, on top of that, it doesn't really feel like a finale. And this will probably be the last thing that I say about this movie, is it was disappointing for me that they knew for a while. This movie was also delayed. They knew that Fox was being acquired by Disney. And it felt, especially in the first act and in the second act, like so much of it was just rushed. The whole film feels rushed, but the first and second act specifically. But the whole film feels rushed to just get a product out, you know, with some really strong moments and some big tentpole, you know, action moments that you can really think about. But story-wise, I walked out of the film, and the whole drive, as I was thinking about what I was going to say in this review, I just kept thinking to myself, there really isn't much to talk about or really even think about or remember from the story that really latches onto you. I think of maybe 3 or 4 moments across the entire film, but the rest of the stuff that I think about is action. And on top of that, it's not like the greatest action we've even seen in this series alone. I won't compare it to other films like the Avengers or other things like that, but as far as the X-Men alone, we've seen far better action, far more exciting action. Though there is some really, really awesome and exciting action in this film. I do not want to discredit how awesome some of the scenes are in this film. There's some use of powers in this film that I really, really, really enjoyed. And I just feel like the story just wasn't all there for me. I wasn't fully invested in what was happening. There was times where, if you know me, I do not like pulling out my phone when I'm watching a movie in the theaters, but there was times where I wanted to so bad because I just kind of felt the need to just kind of have my phone in my hand and just kind of fiddle around. And I think that just speaks to how weak the screenplay was. And I think it's just a huge disappointment for me, especially for for me and for many other people who grew up with the X-Men films. These live action X-Men films changed the landscape for comic book movies forever, and it's crazy to see them having all these ups and downs and change of continuity, and it really has become a mess. And for the final film that Fox was able to do, you would really think and hope that they would have put the time and effort into really expanding this story as a finale and really giving us something to wrap up all the films that have come before this. And it just doesn't feel like a finale. It still leaves doors wide open, but it really doesn't leave anything open that you're really interested in. The movie ends and you're kind of like, cool, all right, they could do some cool stuff there, but nothing that you really want to sink your teeth into. The movie kind of ended and I was just like, cool, that was fine. But I'll buy it on Blu-ray. I'll probably throw it on every here and there when I'm doing laundry or chilling or something like that, or something to throw on before I fall asleep. But yeah, I gotta say, between this and Apocalypse, the last two X-Men films, they've been a little bit lackluster for me in the overall story. While having really strong action, really strong performances, those are the main things that I can really praise it for. And I think that narratively, the honest truth is just, at least for me, I just didn't really feel attached, But you know what? That's just my take. I really want to know what you guys think. So if you saw this movie, let me know down below what you think about this movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Where does it rank for you compared to the other X-Men movies? I'm very, very curious. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you liked this video, you liked what I had to say about it. And even if you didn't like what I had to say about it, still hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button if you guys enjoyed this video. I'm really enjoying doing these reviews for you guys. I have more coming. The next review that I'm going to be doing, hopefully, is Brightburn and Godzilla. I know I said in a previous video that I was going to be reviewing them this past week. Life happened, it didn't really happen. So yeah, guys, hit that subscribe button, the little bell icon next to subscribe will get you notified for the next videos in my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!